Hey everyone, so welcome. In this video, we're going to be talking about how to solve percent problems using a concept called proportions, which we've actually learned earlier in the year, so hopefully it'll come back to you, and you'll enjoy seeing why that is a good strategy to solve these problems. So for our warm-up, this is just going to be a review of converting between fractions, decimals, and percentages. If you need a review of this, you can look back to my last video, but for now, you can just pause the video, give it a try, and we'll show you your answers in a second. Okay, so here's a quick check of your warm-up answers if you wanted to see those. Okay, so what we're going to do is review proportions just so that you can remember the three ways that we could solve this. So again, a proportion, all that means is it is two fractions that are set equal to each other. So, for instance, 25 over 100 is equal to a certain number over 20, right? And we're going to see if we can figure out what that missing number has to be. So one of the ways is to try to simplify the fraction. So if we look at 25 over 100, you want to start thinking about common factors that those two numbers have. Well, I know if we take a 5 out of both of those, this will leave us with a 5 in the numerator. 25 divided by 5 is 5. 100 divided by 5 is 20. Well, there we go. There's our denominator that we wanted, so our numerator has to be 5. Okay, so that is an efficient way as long as it works, but you have to know a common factor that you can pull out, right? All that we did was say 25 is 5 times 5, and 100 is 5 times 20. So we can cross out a pair of those 5s. That's all we did. If we want to take a look at our second way, this was called the direct multiplicative relationship. This one you also kind of have to be able to see it, but it sounds a lot fancier than it really is. You just want to think, so I start with an 100 and I want to end with a 20. So how do I do that? Either with multiplying or, in this case, dividing, right? We're going to have to divide by 5, right? Which is, again, it says direct multiplicative relationship. This is really the same thing as multiplying by 1/5. But I think it's easier for you to see as division. So if we divided by 5 to go across for the denominators, you guessed it, we're going to have to do the same thing for our numerators. 25 divided by 5 gets us the same answer of 5 over 20. Okay? And then my all-time favorite method is cross multiplication. So this is where we try to make a quick equation out of this, which should be a piece of cake now that we spent an entire unit on that. So again, 25 over 100 is some number over 20. Well, in math, anytime we don't know a number, we can substitute a variable in for it. So let's do that. And then maybe you remember doing this with your highlighters, right? Taking the yellow, doing your cross, and then your blue. So if we do that, again, we're going to take yellow. If we multiply 100 times x, we're just going to write 100x. So that is the yellow. And we're saying that that is equal to what is in blue. 25 times 20 gives us 500. And again, that came from the stuff in blue. Okay, now we're ready to go ahead and solve this. So again, now this is a one-step equation. This should be a piece of cake. We know the 100 and the x are attached with multiplication, so we're going to say let's just divide by 100. And look, it gives us the same answer of x equals 5. Right? So x is the value, or I'm sorry, 5 is the value of x. So we would take 5, put it back in where we saw an x, and that would also give us 5 over 20. So 3 different ways to do this. For the examples that I do today, I'm going to use cross multiplication. But if you find simplifying or the direct multiplicative relationship easier, go for it. So really, all we have to know is that, of course, as we talked about yesterday, a percentage is some number out of 100, but we can set that equal to any part of any whole number. So I don't know, maybe we have like 3 out of 4 pieces of pie. We can figure out the percentage or what number that is over 100. And we're going to dive in with an example. So I'm going to try my best to do the color coding here because I think it helps. So they want us to think of what is 60% of 40. So we're going to need these three pieces, and in the problem, we should know two of them. So I think the easiest one for you to see is, well, they give us a percent here. They give us 60%. So that's what we're going to put on the percentage line as 60. We need to think, do we know the part or do we know the whole? So they want us to know what is 60%, right? What is the piece, the 60% piece? So that's going to be the part. That's what we're looking for. And we know that the whole has to be 40. Okay, so if we use this model up at the top, like we were talking about as our example, we know we're going to set up a proportion, which is two fractions set equal. This one always has a 100 down there. That's never going to change. In red, we know the percentage we want is 60, and we know the whole is 40. Our goal is to just figure out what has to go in for this x, which is going to be the part. So why don't you pause this video, see if you can figure out what that x has to be by any of the three strategies we talked about earlier, and then we'll check. All right, so as I said, I always like to do the cross multiplication method. So if you do that, 100x is equal to 2,400, one-step equation. Just divide by 100, so x has to be 24. So that means, again, of course, our answer, and I think it was in green, right, for the part is going to be 24. And all that means if we want 60%, right, so 6/10 or 3/5 of the number 40, that's going to equal 24. Okay, let's dive into an example 2. And again, we'll do our color coding. So again, we see a percentage. Whoops. So we have 12%. So I'm going to outline that, and I'm going to put that on my percentage line. We just have to decide, do we know the part or the whole? So 8 is 12% of what number? Right? So 8 is 12%. Right? So I believe this is going to give us a part. Right? They're saying 8 is not the whole thing. 8 is just a little piece of it. It's the 12% piece. And our goal is to figure out this what number, right? And that's going to be our whole. All right, so why don't you see, I'm going to set you up with your proportion, just with the lines. Why don't you see if you can fill in the appropriate spaces and possibly even solve this one? And then we'll check in a second. Okay, so of course we know the percentage goes up here above the 100. We know the part goes in the numerator of the first fraction, and then we'll use x for our whole. We will, as always, I'm going to use the cross multiplying method. So we're going to do 12x is equal to 800. So here's the yellow piece. Here's the blue piece. And then all we have to do is say, let's just divide by 12. Divide by 12. Okay, and if you get your calculator ready, if you punch in 800 divided by 12, let's see what we get. You should be getting a decimal, which is a little weird, but it's okay. It's 66.6 repeating, so we can put the bar over it. So that I'll write in purple. That's going to be the whole. And that is totally fine. It doesn't have to, nobody said it has to be a whole number, right? But if we wanted 12% of this number, of this decimal, we would get the number 8. And that's how we would answer that question. All right, so in this last minute that we have together, we're going to have you pause this video and see if you can try this from the start. In a minute, we'll unpause, you can check your answer, and we'll wrap things up there. So let's give you this one a try. Okay, so let's have you double check your answer. I was getting 25% for this. Again, if we did the cross multiplying way, here are your yellow and blue highlighters. You could have also seen 20 over 80. You can take 20 actually out of both of those, and it would reduce to 1/4. And then you could also reduce the percentage one. to make sure they're equal. There's a bunch of ways to do this, right? But 25% is going to be the best answer for this, the only answer. So hopefully this helped for you to see why proportions is a great way to solve these problems. So thanks for watching.